Hi, I'm Yulia, and this is The Brief Continued. If you haven't watched the previous part, we just talked about Ukraine here, and now we're going to be talking about the Western Axis, where we have quite a few news today, but it's all positive and it's mostly packages of support for Ukraine. So stick around and find out, and of course, stay tuned. Denmark and the UK are investing in Ukraine's arms production, while the EU is proposing to use proceeds from frozen Russian assets for the same purpose. Denmark will invest over 130 million euros, announced Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen during a press conference with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. "We can only have peace in Europe when we can protect ourselves. Europe has much to learn from Ukraine, especially its ability to expand and develop production lines. It's vital for industries from Denmark and neighboring countries to engage with Ukraine," she said. She also confirmed that Denmark will deliver 19 F-16 aircraft to Ukraine. 6 have already arrived, with the rest coming in 2 batches. The UK, meanwhile, has pledged over $9.5 million to support the development and production of new strikes and reconnaissance drones in Ukraine. These funds will be channeled through the drone coalition on the Ramstein format platform. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell has called for 1.9 billion euros from frozen Russian assets, expected to become available in March-April to support Ukraine's defense industry. The best way to help Ukraine is to boost its industrial capacity. Ukraine efficiently produces modern equipment, including drones, at competitive prices, Borrell emphasized. This is actually interesting, and we just talked about this in the episode of Red Lines with Kaylin Robertson. You might remember him, and if you haven't seen that episode, do check it out. I'm going to link it here. And we were talking about the pragmatic reasons for helping Ukraine. And one of these pragmatic reasons is our production sector, because we produce so many things in-house, as an in-country, that we could compete with China. I mean, of course, not on the scale at which China is right now, but a lot of manufacturing from China could be moved to Ukraine, and manufacturing of tech, of textiles, of a lot of things. And it's very interesting because people are not paying attention to it, and a lot of people don't even know what our capabilities in that field are. The Pentagon is preparing a new defense aid package for Ukraine worth at least $275 million, according to AP. The package will include HIMARS artillery rocket systems and Javelin anti-tank munitions. The aid will be provided through the Presidential Drawdown Authority, enabling the Pentagon to swiftly transfer weapons from its stockpiles for rapid delivery to Ukraine's front lines. This is one of the great things that Biden was able to do before he has to leave the administration for the next president. Poland is preparing its 45th aid package for Ukraine and has already begun work on the next defense package, President Zelensky said after speaking with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. "I thanked the Polish people for their solidarity with Ukraine and the Prime Minister for his principled response to recent Russian shelling and efforts to end Putin's political isolation. We discussed expectations for Poland's presidency of the EU Council in the next half of the next year. I hope for Poland's support in the negotiation process with the EU, including opening the first cluster of negotiations and progressing with other clusters in parallel. I especially thank Donald Tusk for leveraging his extensive personal connections to advocate for Ukraine's NATO accession and continued defense support. We also agreed to meet before the end of this year," Zelensky said. And, of course, everybody is hoping that Poland is going to be able to fight for the right to take down missiles on approach to Poland, or take down missiles over the west of Ukraine that they consider necessary to take down. Yesterday, for instance, in Poland and in other countries bordering Ukraine, F-16s came into the air because of this threat of the missiles flying onto embassies of Western countries, and they were given a command, allegedly, to take down everything that goes towards Kyiv because it's a threat to the foreign embassies or Western embassies or NATO embassies. Why can't we just do that for any time? Why does it only have to be when it's the safety of the American citizens or Belgian citizens or Polish citizens who work at the embassies? Why can't we extend that privilege to everyone who is in Ukraine? the U.S. to supply Ukraine with anti-personnel mines. The Biden administration has decided to provide Ukraine with anti-personnel mines in response to Russian advances in the eastern direction, according to media reports. The mines will be used exclusively on Ukrainian territory, focusing on countering Russian tactics on the front line. Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin stated that the decision reflects Russia's shift towards relying on motorized infantry. The anti-personnel mines are intended to counter this type of offensive. So what Russians end up doing is they mine a lot of areas that they take over, or a lot of areas that they come towards. They just they fire cluster munitions, they drop mines, and what ends up happening is a lot of Ukrainian servicemen lose their limbs by stepping on these mines. So these anti-personnel mines for Russians are a very good strategy for Ukraine because we can pay them back in what we're getting. Anyways, this is all I have for you for today in the Western Axis section. The next section is going to be about my favorite country in the whole world, Russia.